Hello. I believe we're live. I don't normally do this technical stuff, so I'm going to trust that we are. Let us know in the comments that we're live. Hello, welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and manticores to that 6+++ show. I am your host, Tom, and I am delighted to be joined tonight by two WTC coaches, the lovely Scrivo and the lovely Jack. I'll start with Scrivo. Scrivo, how are you doing? Are you recovered? Are you back in one piece?
Yeah, I'm feeling quite rested. I slept for most of yesterday afternoon because apparently that's what you do after a week of Warhammer. But yeah, it was good. So
Excellent. And how long was your journey back?
2 hours,
That's
two and a
actually
half
pretty
hours.
rapid. I guess it's
Yeah,
only Belgium, right? It's not too
yeah.
bad.
So it was the 40-minute train to Brussels. Then it was like an hour and a half. No, so it was about 3 hours. Yeah, and then 2 hours Eurostar back to London, and then hop on a well-managed train system with great drivers back to Berkhamsted. So
Got inspired early.
Wonderful. Okay, well, we also have a guest who's not been on here before, the lovely Jack. Jack, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone so they know who you are?
Oh, hello. I see you, David. I have to shout out, Davey.
Oh, lovely Swizzly impression. I love it.
I've been practicing it in the mirror
every morning.
every morning.
And so, do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself, Jack? Obviously, you're a WTC coach. We'll get to that in a minute. But also, what's your kind of hobby in 40k background?
I've only been playing 40k, I think, competitively for the last year and a half or so.
Okay, amazing.
But I predominantly play Thousand Suns.
Yep.
Bit of Guard, bit of Marines and stuff as well. Play for the Mind Goblins team.
Brilliant.
Local to the area with you guys as well, the Hearts, Beds, Bucks kind of area and the tournament scene. And been on the coaching staff in England for about 5-6 months, I think now.
Yeah, which is remarkable. Yeah. Playing for about a year and a bit and then coaching for England is a pretty remarkable rise. So we'll get into that and talk about it in a minute. But obviously you've done fantastically. And so if you're just joining us, so obviously this is the 6+++ show, and we are a Warhammer and 40k podcast. We talk tactics, we talk hobby, we talk all sorts. But this is a WTC special because a couple of my good mates have been away to it. Been very excited. I've been chatting and getting serious FOMO across the past week. I'm sure a lot of you have been watching WTC games live because it was all streamed really well this year. So what we thought we'd do this week is just have a little bit of a debrief and a chat about the experiences of England and Wales, respectively, at the WTC. Give you a little bit of a behind-the-scenes sense of how this works, what being in an international 40k team is like, and chat to the guys about their experiences. And then we'll do some listener questions at the end. And I think that keeps things nice and simple. We don't need to make these guys do hobby roundup because I don't imagine they've had much time to build models. I think they've been busy boys.
I've been building hunter killer missiles for Alex Harrison because he's a liability of getting his own models. And they all went in a box. All these Scout Sentinels went in a box. And by the time I got to Belgium, every single one of their ankles had snapped. And I was like, oh my God. No. I feel like I got the pressure of like building these off. And I was like, they're just going to snap again.
Yeah. They're vulnerable things. Yeah, absolutely.
I had a similar experience. I took 2 boxes of stuff to lend to the team because that's what happens. And I only had 5 models break.
Yeah, that's all right.
Not too bad. Yeah, and it was the Lich Guard, so like their join is just their wrist, so it's expected. So
they just get back up again anyway, don't they? So it's fine.
Apparently not. That's what I learned.
Brilliant. Hello to everyone in the chat. Hello, Davey. I see you there. Hello, Existence UK. Thank you for telling me I'm live. This is all very scary to me, but I think if we've got this far, I reckon we'll be okay. I think it'll be all right. I don't need to do much else. I just need to not completely destroy everything. I'm going to put a little banner up. I've got a little banner here. Here we go.
Oh God.
Oh. There it is. WTC chat. That's what we're doing today. And before we get into it, I was going to just briefly say, obviously, we launched our Patreon last week. Thank you very much to everyone who signed up to that. We have successfully got enough funding coming in to help Chris pay for his sort of software tools and all the various things that help him make the show. So he wanted to pass on his thanks to all of you for doing that. We're massively grateful. And you can find links to Patreon on the channel and everything else if you'd like to chip in at all with the team. But self-promotion aside, let's get into it. Let's talk WTC. Obviously, we know what happened now. We know who the winners were. We know what the final places were. But we're gonna roll it all the way back to before that, and start thinking a little bit about what the sort of work and preparation and run into this was like behind the scenes. So obviously, we've got two coaches here. I guess to the uneducated, obviously, 40k teams, international teams there's a whole base of players who will go and play the games. You match up, you pair into rounds, but actually, there's a lot more to a team than that. And I guess it would be nice if we just start with you, Jack and Scrivo, just chatting a little bit about what being a coach means in this context and what a sort of coach brings to an international 40k team. What's the role? What sorts of things do you guys end up doing? Maybe if we start with you, Jack, and then we'll move over to Scrivo.
I think you can break down the coach into like a number of different roles. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people see coaching a team's event and they'll be going around during a game, maybe collecting scores, collecting predictions, running up a total and giving the players advice on how to manage the game, whether they need to be more aggressive, whether they need to just stick to their game plans and stuff like that. And also a little bit sort of giving them water, make sure they're hydrated, do they need to get breaths and all this stuff. But I think there's a lot of background stuff as well when it comes to being a coach, and Scrivo will also know this as well, as the months before a tournament, if like it's also being there as an additional testing player as well for the teams, and especially for us, there was a number of countries that worked together and collaborated, be that Iceland, Scotland, Poland and stuff. They were famous. They all collaborated together, so their list looked slightly similar, and they went to each other's tournaments and stuff like that. But we did everything in house. Mm-hmm. We used a lot of like the coaching staff, and within our coaching staff as guys with WTC playing experience as well, to be able to test other countries' lists, our lists, and run them down in the months beforehand. Mm-hmm. And then also pre-game and stuff as well. It's managing the matrix. Like two of our coaches were predominantly on the matrix and pairings as well. Mm-hmm. So not only were they doing the coaching stuff beforehand and testing, where they were running a line and collecting scores and getting water and stuff, but they were on the pairings table and sorting their pairings out, getting home on the evening straight after a round and going right in the bar, doing matrices. Is your colour accurate? Right, what are we going to put down? What's our first? Doing mock pairings against each other as well at 11 o'clock at night before we all go to bed and stuff like that. Going right, we're the USA now. Let's do the round. And then and just doing stuff like that. So I think you can break it down into a number of different roles, and certain countries delegated the roles. So they had guys that went and got people water, or they had guys that were collecting the scores, or they had guys that were specifically just on pairings. France had a guy who was just a media guy. He was he was like the face of it in the interviews and stuff. Like not just like we had Tom doing the media stuff and doing the video. He was like doing interviews for French national TV as well, and breaking down the national TV. But there was like 3,000 people watching their stream.
That's amazing.
Many people watching. And they had every single role the coach broke down and delegated.
They had someone making baguettes for them, and there was a
guy
cutting tomato freshly, and I was like, "Oh, that's just madness." We're literally queuing up for burgers. I was like, "That's
high quality prep."
Chip run. Let's go get someone some chips quick.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that gives us a lot of an idea of it's a very organic role, right? It fills in a lot of important gaps and helps the whole thing function as an entity. So it's really, really cool to hear. And I guess that gets us onto sort of how you ended up becoming a coach, Jack, because obviously you had quite a remarkable run with Mind Goblins at a teams event, right? I think you kind of did. Was that when you caught England's eye because you were obviously coaching for that run?
Yeah, I think it was. So we went into that tournament and I was playing in that tournament, and I was running 1,000 tons at the time. It was like post nerf after the Flamers and stuff, and I wasn't very confident with my army, and playing with a number of really good players, I kind of felt like a pressure kind of thing, and I was like, I don't really want to play. But I knew Adam Lane was on our team, and he was one of the England coaches already. And I said, I'll coach because I want to go out for the weekend. I want to experience, but I don't want to really play. So we got James Shapiro in, playing on Votan at the time, but a notorious, really good Sisters player. So we got him in, and we ended up having a really good run. Went 5-0 and ended up facing England in the final. And I kind of had the thing in my head going, you know what, I'm really enjoying this over the weekend. I was really enjoying doing like the pairings and stuff with Adam, like breaking all this stuff down and then going around running the line and stuff. I was having a really good time. I said to Adam, we got to there, I was like, oh, like any chance of, do you reckon, like volunteering and helping out with England and stuff like that? And he kind of just like pushed me in Josh Roberts' direction, just like just go and ask him. I was like, oh, like this. So I was just asking, I was like, any chance of like volunteering just to help out or do anything? And You see a cat's tail, just pop in there. And yeah, so suddenly he was just like, oh yeah, we're always looking for volunteers to help out on practice weekends or anything like that. And it didn't really amount to anything straight away. And then suddenly I just got an offer to turn up at Home Nations because they had no coach for that. And then suddenly turned up last minute in Wrexham on my own to
The Hollywood of Wales, apparently.
Hollywood of Wales, really nice. And and obviously I knew that Scrivo was there because we'd seen each other in the week.
Yes.
And you guys were playing and testing for Wales at the time. And suddenly, I went to Home Nations, had a little coach in there. We managed to win that. And some of the guys from England at that tournament said that I found that I did a really good job. And they obviously voiced that to Josh and Matt and the selection committee kind of thing. And they were like, do you want to come to Belgium? I was like,
super exciting.
I was like, absolutely, yeah. So I think it's just a number of little bits of luck of me just choosing not to play that tournament. We did really well. We got to there. I just asked the right questions to say, is there any chance of just volunteering? And then an opportunity came up and it was like, I need to grab that opportunity because that weekend I also had a stag do. And I was like, if I cancelled the stag do to go on it because I was like, I might not have another opportunity to do this again.
That's amazing.
Like genuinely, I was like, I don't think I'll have an opportunity. I was like, I think I'll just go for it.
Yeah,
so just didn't go and was like, I'm just going to go.
Yeah. And it's been something that you've obviously worked extremely hard at since. Certainly when I've been talking to you, it's been, as you say, there's been a lot of behind the scenes work testing things. And obviously with 10th dropping, there was so much work to do, like quite a remarkable amount of work needed doing to actually understand the meta as it had basically just been dropped on our heads. And, here's a month, figure out the entire game, off you go. Yeah. So it's an awful lot of work. And so, I mean, let's sort of work you in here, Scrivo, as well, because obviously this year has been a year of change for you, and it's the first year you've been sort of actively involved with Team Wales as well, right? So how did that come about?
So 2 years ago, kind of my friend Tom Layton was like, oh, you're Welsh, do you want to come along to Battle of Britain? Which is kind of a, not quite the home nation sort of approach, but it is very much each of the countries get told you can bring 3 teams along. They don't have to be people that are actually part of the team. Good way of kind of testing people out. So I went to that, sort of thought, oh, this is quite fun. Got a bit kind of the itch. But then as kind of 9th kind of ran its course, I got a bit frustrated with it, so I took a break. Yeah. And it was only, I think it was about October last year. I was like, I think it was after LGT, I went, you know what, I'll give it a go this year and see what happens. Didn't think any more of it. And then they kind of approached me and said, we'd like you to kind of come along. So I went to like a training day. And we were quite fortunate because this was the first year that Wales had actually had enough people put themselves forward that there was actually a selection process required. It was, which I know that sounds kind of not that big a deal, but for Wales, it's been eternally a problem where you'd have the situation where you have to bring so many mercs. It was always a compromise in the team. So this year it was like, cool, we actually have a full Welsh roster. And it came down to kind of, there was 3 of us that were kind of eyeing up, and they were like, Scrivo, we don't think you're quite there this year, but do you want to come along and help do the coaching? And I was like, didn't really know what coaching would involve, so I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go, see what I can do. A lot of it was they wanted to push more things like last year, if you actually look at the social media, Wales didn't exist. There was nothing. And that's not anyone's fault. If you're all playing, like literally last year, our captain, we had him playing. This year we've actually had a non-player captain and a co-captain that was playing, and me as a coach. So there was actually some flexibility, which just completely changed the dynamic. So, so then I went to Home Nations, and because one of our players wasn't available, I played there. Found that really challenging, but really rewarding. Kind of, there was one of our rounds, I think, me just scraping some points did make the difference, which was kind of cool to see.
The best feeling in teams in the world.
It's the best. It's like, it didn't matter if I won by 1 point. If I got those 10 points that I needed, great. Super. And so then kind of went to Belgium thinking, I will do what I need to do. And I just had no expectations. All I'd set myself as a goal for 10th, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to play all the lists and know all the factions inside out. Gave myself kind of bridge notes of each of the factions, and then drilled into the core rules and made sure that I knew all the weird interactions. Yeah. So last weekend I ran a little local tournament that you went to, Tom. And my goal was literally like, if there's any weird interactions to kind of be had, I'd sit there and I'd try to figure it out, because there was nothing worse than you get 2 people at a table on the clock and they go, what's that? And people need to be prepared. Like, it was some of the strangest interactions that this new edition haven't really covered properly, which people do need answers
there are
for.
a few,
And
yeah.
there was a surprising amount of them that did come up. So it was kind of nice to have the answers, but I still had to obviously call over a ref to get them to resolve it. But it meant that afterwards I'd be like, everyone, this is definitely the ruling on it. And it was cool that I could be kind of like certain of it.
Yeah.
Which is nice, because I'm not the most confident at times when trusting my own kind of memory of these sorts of things. So kind of running that end's been quite cool. So
Yeah. And I think it shows how. Oh, so we've got a question from Sharon. He says, would it be possible to briefly explain what being a coach means for a 40k team for casuals like myself? Yeah, absolutely. So we did cover this at the beginning, but just to reiterate, essentially coaches in a 40k international team, or indeed an international team, are helping to do those kind of supportive roles, right? So you have a pairings process in teams where you'll be matching the different armies into each other. A coach helps to run the sort of matrix by which teams work out what they want to be trying to achieve when they pair armies together. Coaches will help to practice matchups and to talk through matchups with their players, and then there's all sorts of just ancillary supporting type stuff where you're making sure people are hydrated, you're keeping track of how a round is going and making sure it's communicated to people so other players know how results are, what's needed from different games. So coaches really knit the whole thing together, and it's been really interesting watching within sort of domestic UK teams. I think coaches are becoming more popular precisely because of successes like Jack's with Mind Goblins, where I think having those extra hands makes an enormous difference. We've found it with our very own Jack Chapman. For us has been remarkable in terms of helping to stitch things together and work out the matrix. Oh, a certain Vic VJ's in the chat. Well done for smashing the War Masters winner, Vic. I love you. You're the best man in the world. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm looking forward to quizzing you all about it at some point as well. And so, yeah, so that's kind of the role. That's kind of the goal here. But I guess let's talk about your team's runs a little bit. We'll try and keep it brief. We're not going to go in depth on every single game, but I think for those unfamiliar with the World Teams Championships, and I know I was until very recently, it's not something I've followed all that much until this year, but I've got the bug now. There's obviously a sort of pod stage where you're all kind of placed in based on seeding and drawn, and then the results in those pods then determine the sort of pathway through subsequent sort of matches, which ultimately will then determine your overall placing. Is that a fair assessment of how that works?
Yes, exactly that.
Very nice.
And the pods, those rankings are based on last year's results as well.
Yes.
So
they're seeded, right?
This year. It was the first year because it was the first WTC switch from the ETC last year. So that was the first time, I guess, doing the pods this year in that respect. But going forward, that'll be go.
Yeah.
So I guess top 9 will be seed 1, and then it was 9, right? This year.
It was this year, but it'll depend. So if we
How
say
many
gain
new teams
an
are
extra
there?
more teams, it'll stretch. So you might get someone that was tier 2 drop to tier 3 and stuff. So there might be some wiggle, but
yeah. Great. Well, let's talk about your pod experience then. Maybe if we start with you, Scrivo. What was Wales's pod like? What was your seed going into this? I guess.
So
first?
we were seed 3. We were 26th last year, which I know that the team at the time found it a little bit disappointing because kind of there was a time where Wales were kind of up there with the big boys.
Oh.
So it was kind of interesting. So a lot of kind of the expectation was just to do better this year, and then we got into a pod. We had Finland, Poland, South Africa, and then the last one was Latvia. No, Latvia wasn't in the pods. No, so it's just Poland.
It was yourself.
Yeah. I was say you're the fourth.
We're the fourth. Yeah, we're the fourth. And it was quite interesting to us because Finland are quite a strong team. South Africa were an unknown. So that isn't something to ever kind of go, all right, they're going to be an easy kind of push.
No, you don't know what you're dealing with, right?
And then Poland are literally like on my list of people I went, I don't want to go into them in the pods. Look what we've got. This is fine. And that was kind of our goal of like, how many points can we take from them, not how much can we beat them by, which is a nice challenge, but it means you're always on the back foot from the start. But that's half the fun of it, right? Like the dumb luck of it.
You've got that underdog position, right? Which is very exciting. And for those that don't follow Worlds very much, Poland is sort of infamous, right? They work extremely hard. They're extremely well prepped. If you've been to any UK TC events, there's a lot of Polish players who literally go and help judge. They're incredibly active, phenomenally dedicated 40k players. And it's kind of a saying that like if you want to get anywhere in the WTC, you have to go through Poland at some stage. Otherwise, it's not happening. So they're a remarkable team of players, and so a lot of good contact loss is worth the shout out for good coverage of the WTC as well. They were running a series of podcasts that I really enjoyed, kind of reporting on the different teams. So yeah, that sounds like a tough pod, John, in many ways, right? That's a strong set of teams. So how did those games go, and how did you guys sort of go about navigating that?
So the challenge we'd obviously had is for a lot of our team, we're quite separate. And as a result, I feel like there may have been varying degrees of preparation, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
So quite a lot of it was done internally, like a couple of our guys paired off. So there wasn't always necessarily as much information as we probably would have got if we'd been doing the TTS sort of thing. I think that's the biggest challenge in hindsight I've looked at, is that we didn't have that level of prep that a lot of them had.
I think TTS does change things remarkably.
That changes the game totally. So going into it, like playing Finland was a rough game. It did very much feel like we could still win it if things went well in a couple of the games, but then it kind of snuck away from us towards the end and we ended up on 60 to 100, which was not too disappointing, but it did kind of point us that we were very much, in my opinion, probably a little bit underprepared even than Finland were, which I think was fair.
What sorts of things do you think highlighted that to you? What were the issues? Was it a sort of a pairings thing, or?
I think a lot of it was because we didn't necessarily have all the experience into the matchups.
It's worth saying completely fair when the game's been out for like a month and a bit, right?
Yes and no, but that's the thing. A lot of these teams had done all of the reps. Since the lists had gone out, even they played into our exact lists type of thing. So it's just like there wasn't an excuse in that respect. So it's fair games really in that respect.
Okay.
But then in the second round, we kind of had to rebuild ourselves, because what they'd done as well this year, instead of it being 3 rounds in a day, there'd been a vote. So the first round was done on Thursday evening? Friday evening, yes. Thursday evening. It's such a long week.
I was going to say, it's all blurred into one for you, hasn't it? Yeah.
And it was cool because we kind of spread it out. So there was that, and then each day there was 2 rounds. But it meant that basically,
it was nice and spaced out. I think that's
which you need, because it's a lot of heads, kind of, your head goes through a lot with it. So after that, kind of like, right, we've got this as an opportunity then to go back to the hotel, look at the matrices, reevaluate them as well, because obviously seeing how it all played out a little bit kind of gave us some extra information. And knowing that we were then going into Poland in the morning meant we needed to be as prepped as possible.
Yeah.
And I don't think we could have been any more prepped than we were that night, but at the same time, it was not enough. They definitely showed us how to play the game in many ways. We took our fight, but we did get spanked. I'd say comfortably. It was 127 to 33, which was our biggest loss of the week, but I'm not too surprised.
I think it's fair to say there's no shame in that. So very well drilled team, but it does show just how much the work that goes in matters, right? Because
the one thing I would say is both them and Finland, despite being really competent, like really scary teams, they were beautifully friendly, lovely people. Turn up to the pairings table. Here's our spirit of choice. You all have to do shots, type of thing. It was kind of this cultural thing where it's like everyone's just like, there's an icebreaker. We turn up with Welsh cakes and go, here you go, eat these. And they're like, what are these? Like, they're really addictive.
Oh, they really are. I met so many of those things on gaming nights. It's ridiculous.
But it was nice because, like, during that round, I was chatting to one of the coaches, and he was just very much like, in this matchup, I don't think you could have done anything differently there based on this mission, these two armies into each other, and the order of who went first. And I'm like, that's fair for you to say. It doesn't make me feel any better. But it was nice that we were like chatting about it, and it was just like, they were lovely guys. So it was kind of, it was a good education for me as well about seeing how their coaches were prepared. Like, they very much had the whole role thing, whilst I was kind of doing everything apart from pairings, because I stayed away from pairings because that's not necessarily my forte, I don't think. So
no, that's completely fair. And I do. There's a little bit of the singles experience in that, where so much of how we learn is by seeing how others play, right? And I think, and with teams, it's been that, 6 of us, we're very new to teams. We've only played a few teams events, but we've learned so much just by watching what a really well drilled team does and how they pair, how they act, and how they think. And so I think it feels like there's a lot of learning opportunities to be had there. Yeah. So that leaves one more game. So it was the South Africa game was the last one?
South Africa, yeah. So they had what's his name? Carl Grundy, one of the Vanguard Tactics guys, being a coach for them.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which was kind of cool. They were lovely guys. We did end up with a tie with them.
Okay,
it was a winning tie, so it was 82-78. So it was really, really close. It was one of those games where I think, like, if we'd had a little bit more, I know I'm going to keep saying this, but prep, it just felt like if we were a little bit more kind of on the ball with it, that could have tipped into a win. But it's just all learning, right? So that was a great one where it felt like we were kind of, there was a lot of kind of close games that were kind of swingy. Like, was that the round? I think that was the round where our Knights player literally just rolled 40 shots at something and didn't get a single thing through. And it's just like, how? It was just one of those games where his dice just went, you're just not going to have a game now. And he's just standing there going, cool, just the way it goes.
And that happens, right? It's
Dice be dice, right? And it was quite bizarre to watch because it got to the point where it was just like kind of laughing, going, yep, why am I rolling?
And Eloizzle, you're completely right. Some of the Seed 14s were really good. I think the overall, I was impressed. Having watched a few games and I watched some of the War Masters as well, I thought the caliber across the world that was on display was remarkable. In terms of the level of prep, the lists, the style of play, some really, really impressive things. And I say some debuts from teams that were amazing. South Africa obviously did great. New Zealand were fantastic, having not played.
Amazing. They did great.
Really good.
Some remarkable runs from completely new teams, and it's really exciting, isn't it, to see that level of if the entrants are all bringing that level of A game, that bodes really well for it as a competitive exercise, which is really exciting. So in terms of the pod, then what did that mean for you? We'll just finish what that means for you for your next place, and then we'll turn to Jack. But what are the sort of consequences of the sort of 2 losses and a draw in that position?
That means that we kind of went down lower initially to start, which probably not a bad thing because it's kind of placing you where you probably should be, or at least where you've scored to be. So it's like at that point we're like, cool, we can kind of relax a little bit. That we're probably going to be facing people that had a similar sort of win path. Potentially, or are to the same standard as us, and it's kind of then just a matter of who's better, which was kind of, you settle a bit more in at that point as well. After 3 games, I think the players were feeling a bit more comfortable with their lists.
Yes.
A bit more kind of understanding of the missions as well, like silly little things. Like I think it was against Poland. A couple of their players went, "We're going fixed," and absolutely smashed it with it. And half of my players just went, didn't really think of fixed. And me myself, I've just always gone, I don't see the point of doing fixed. I either win or I don't. But that's a singles mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like these guys were just going, cool. I'm just gonna boot forward, cleanse 2 objectives. I'm gonna teleport homers each turn. I score my points, and it opens
up a whole range of possibilities.
That's just so smart, and like that just shows that our level of prep was just that little bit below everyone. That was like something silly like that. You're like, okay, now I feel stupid, but it's all learning, right? Now I'm now going to be playing singles, going, oh, I'm going to take fix. I'm going to just stomp you because it's just easy.
I actually took fix for the first time ever at the weekend. That was Leagues of Votann forces you to do some weird things with your
desperation.
Where are my points coming from? How am I going to get some points with these?
What did you take?
Into Tau, I took cleanse and bring it down, and it worked a treat. I was like, I'm going to
all those suits,
hunt all those vehicles, stand in 2 places, scan some stuff. Jobs are good and worked a treat, but it's not going to work every time.
No.
We've got a question. We've actually got 2 questions. Nicholas Willingate asks, how am I supposed to do anything tonight with Jack on stream? Turn down the attractiveness. I don't think he can, Nick. He's just a beautiful boy. He's just a beautiful boy. He's our Eurocentric Jesus, and we wouldn't change him for anything. He's what we're all about. And then, the Mind Goblins are in tonight. Louis Ballington asks, how far in advance did your players know which factions they were taking? Were you able to get a sufficient number of reps into the various matchups prior to the tournament? That's tough in a situation like this where an additions just drop, right? So, I mean, was there much change up for either of you guys in the sort of run-in? Did factions sort of drop in or out of the roster?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think for us, for
sure. Are you able to share what dropped in or out? I don't know whether the secrets are all.
I mean, it's done now. What we took is what we took now. It was finding the top 8, and I think at the start of 10th there was certainly a top 3.
Yes.
And that was at the time Imperial Knights, GSC, and Eldar, which we didn't end up taking Imperial Knights as well, because obviously after that there was a nerf to not a nerf, sorry, there are points increase to the Imperial Knights and stuff like that. Yeah. And so we had them 3, and then we were trying to find the rest of the 8, and there was a few that kind of answered themselves, and then towards like 7-8 it was really hard. There was a number of like 5 factions that could have filled them roles.
Yeah.
And at the start, we didn't think T-Sons was in the 8.
Yeah.
We thought it was, then we thought it wasn't, then it went back in. And there was enough there. We had Nids come in at the last minute as well. Necrons we didn't take because we we ran them a few times and we didn't
That's
like
interesting.
them.
Yeah.
We ran guard instead. There was the Necrons we found we went against a lot, and they just pushed pure draws into people.
That's
and,
kind of the role, right?
And then we maybe had some armies that were a little bit more swingy, where that would have given us a little bit more stability, maybe. But we also didn't know that, so we've gone in. That's just based on our testing. Some of these armies came in and out. Nids came in last minute. Necrons went out. Imperial Knights went out. T-Suns came in. So there was a few that were on the cusp. Chaos Knights were talked about early, didn't come in. Orcs were talked about a little bit, but we didn't put them in as well. And other countries took these lists as well.
Yeah,
there was
really
some
interesting
lists that were just chucked out straight away. The Death Guards and stuff like that. They were
who?
They were not considered. They were not considered. And even Grey Knights weren't considered because of how expensive they were. And then suddenly Jack took them at ATC, and everyone was like, okay, no one else had taken them, which okay, that's really interesting. But there was a few especially that just answered themselves. GSC and Eldar specifically, they're always going to be taken.
They were very strong. Although it felt like at Worlds and in War Masters, it felt like people had started to figure out lists for GSC in a way that maybe they hadn't for Eldar, right? GSC were the one people were going after. Certainly I'm sat at home as a GSC playing, oh my goodness, I don't want to play against any of these. They're all they're running at me with a million things, and I can't handle that. There's a lot of stuff. So that was interesting to see. And I think it's amazing that, some of the best minds in the world at this stuff are coming up with completely different solutions. Like I loved seeing some Chaos Knights doing different things. I loved seeing Orcs out there. It was interesting seeing Tau sneak in a few armies as well.
So Poland took them in the end.
Exactly
as well,
that. So it just, there was a creativity there. I suppose what's interesting is that I imagine Singles is going to start reflecting back at you guys the stuff you were coming up with before very long.
Sure.
Right? I'm pretty confident of that, and that's quite exciting that it gets to almost set the tempo and show people what the kind of top of the game looks like, and then people follow suit. So that's really exciting. Let's talk about your pod then, Jack. So what was England's pod?
England, we had Bulgaria, Romania, and Spain.
Exciting. Okay.
And I think going in, we were like, this is probably one of the harder pods out of all of them. For a Seed 1 team going in with 3 very good Seed 2, 3, 4 teams. Yeah. I've seen Bulgaria, they took a little small team to ITT and they did pretty well.
We played against them. They were amazing. They were really
lovely guys.
I always remember the BDSM tops that they always wear as well. The Bulgarian detachment, detachment, something, surgical maneuvers. That's it. And so they came along. So I was expecting them to be really good, but they were our first one. So it was like, well, that's the weakest, supposedly supposed to be the weakest team on our pod. And it was like, well, I've seen them do pretty well already, and from first-hand experience of talking to you guys, that they're clearly good players. And it's only going to get harder from then on. And people are like, obviously Spain have got some very good players on their team that you do really well at major tournaments, and a lot of people were saying that they were almost in Seed 1. I think it was England actually knocked them into Seed 2 last year in the last round. And that was the last round. England beat Spain, knocked them into Seed 2, and now face them now this year. So we had a difficult pod. And specifically on the first 3 missions were also very weird.
Getting those out of the way.
And specifically Spain was looking like a very drawy mission.
What was the mission for Spain?
I actually can't remember. Do you remember the
was that round 2?
It was round 3.
Round 3.
Yeah, if I can bring it up quickly.
Hang on. I could do the same. I've got a cheat sheet.
These new missions do massively shape things, right? The missions make a massive difference to rounds because some of them push scores closer together and some of them create more polarizing outcomes. So this is a big thing in a team's event.
Round 3 in Spain, purge the foe, hidden supplies. So it was adding the additional objectives into the middle and taking the middle one out. And
it's got the kill more in the kill more primary.
And it was on sweeping engagement, so it's super close deployment zones as well. On that one. So we got through Bulgaria at round 1, and I think we came out of the pairings thinking we're good. We're projected around a low 90s, and I think we ended up getting 120 something. So we ended up exceeding our expectations on that one. And the same into Romania, we came out, I think, with the same. We feel like we paired well. Came out with an expectation of like a low 90s, and then got ended up getting a few more points towards the end. So I think felt good into our matrix and stuff a little bit. And then we got to Spain, and we were very. It was one that the night before, Thursday night. So we played Bulgaria on the Thursday evening, and Thursday night was like, let's prepare for Romania and let's prepare especially for Spain. Like we need to have our mock pairings done. We need to know what we're doing before we go, because it was going to be round 3, it was going to be the evening one. We'd already have played Romania. We don't have that time at lunchtime to go through it again. We need to go through it really now.
Tricky. Yeah,
exactly right. So we went through it. We knew especially it was going to be a really drawy round against a really top team. And we got to the round. I feel like we paired well, and then there was a few differences on our matrix to how theirs is. And we found that there was a few matchups that were swings that we didn't think were swings until we got there. And suddenly, and it was all because the players played it differently as well. When Alex goes into Taroxa and Taroxa puts his whole army on the line and goes, I'm going to go first and win, or I'm going to go second, I'm going to lose. And you're going, oh my God. And I think some people like Typhus spoke on it on a number of like podcasts going into WTC, that teams that aren't expected to win will give you flip matchups because they can take the risk
completely.
And if they've gone into the pairings going, we are the underdog, we have nothing to lose. They had nothing to lose and everything to gain. They were like, we get revenge for next year and we can knock off one of the top favorite teams in the tournament. We'll balls to the wall it. Let's take a flip. Let's take a flip. Let's do it. And they did. They were like, we'll take it. And it was a flip on theirs, and on ours it wasn't. We were comfortable into it. And on that specific deployment, on that specific board, and getting first turn, and suddenly a whole Thousand Sons army and Terminators deep striking and moving twice after deep striking, going, oh my God. Oh my God. And Magnus going, I'm not going to do -1 damage. I'm going to move 16 inches. And I'm going to give everything else +2 movement. And I'm just going to alpha strike you. And we were just like, they just went balls to the wall. But if they didn't get first, they were their whole army was exposed to get shot turn 1, and they would have just lost that. They could have lost the whole army turn 1 if they didn't get first turn. And was just like, I'm just going to put it on there. And then it was a big wake up call, and that shook our whole round up. Because we ended up scoring 83 points, 3 points away from a win. And we had 2 zeros in that round as well. And there were 2 where they just went, I'm going to go first. I'm going to delete half your army. And they got first, and they got the good rolls, and they did it, and we're just like, what? And it set us back really hard at the start.
That must be, for a team mentality, that must be quite difficult. I guess I'm curious because obviously, we were watching on the stream and we got the news that this was happening. I'm really curious for you guys as a team. You're there. A couple of your games have gone against you. How do a team A, communicate, and B, manage something that's happening like that? Because that must be, that must put everyone under real pressure.
For sure.
And it's how do you manage and deal with something like that without making things worse, if you will? Like, what's the way of managing it, and how did you guys handle it on the day?
I think the experience of the coaches and the experience of the players, some of the players was really helpful here. Like the experience of guys like Tony Chu, like they're one of the captains, the coaching captains. Just settling down, and just Alex was going, I'm going to get a 0 in this round. Okay, just try and get a point if you can. And just trying to calm the players down. Just play it out. And then there was, and you're trying to reflect it to the other players that are still playing the game, like Vic and Manny and stuff. So can you push extra bits here? Because and you have to communicate that these matchups are going really bad. And it's hard to be like, we're predicted to get a couple zeros in this round. And suddenly and you've got 6 games to win the round in. And it's like, and you're trying to communicate, but the players are really, because of their experience, is really level-headed, really calm in the situation, which is really big because 3 of our players were new as well. We'd not gone to WTC before, and although they're really great players, it's a different atmosphere. It's a different atmosphere, right? It's a different pressure to suddenly be like the team is suddenly needing you to perform, and everyone kept a really level head. And tried to push them points, and was like, we need, because the round was still looking drawy at that stage, even with the 2 losses. It was like, but we need to push the win. There was always like, we have to push the differential in the pod as much as we can, even into the first round. Going, we're going to score 120 points. Let's score 126 points. We need the extra points because it all comes down to the placings at the end. If you're all finished on the same points, so everyone stayed really level-headed and was just super calm. but internally you're like freaking out. And I was getting texts constantly going, like in like the Mind Goblins chat, going, "Oh, we've seen on here that you have predicted 2-0s because it goes round like the contact lost guys predict the round and stuff." And they're like, and it was on Spanish stream as well. And I had Mike on the Spanish stream. He didn't want to be on the because it's different where people can't watch it and then interpret what's being said as well. You're just seeing scores go up and everyone's like, you're trying to interpret these scores and people are texting you going, you're predicted 2-0s, you're going to lose. And I'm just like, turn my phone off, just leave it alone.
I think you don't need that noise, do you? I think you've got to be out of that.
Turn that off, just leave it. It's like, it's fine. Like, let's control what we can control. Have we got games in our favor? Can we push these realistically? What's our, and that's where having some of the coaches with experience, having an accurate points projection and communicating that with the players to calm them down, to say, look, we can still win this round even with these. And if you don't have accurate data from the players during the round, and if you don't have accurate data like with your matrix and stuff as well, you can't communicate that with the players. Because you have to tell them that so and so still going to get 14. Manny's still going to go to 20. He could put he was going to get 18, but he can push to a 20. And you just go and you communicate that with everyone else, and they suddenly it calms them a little bit. They know that you've got it under control, even though there's a couple games falling to pieces. That everyone else is in a good position. And is it? No, you can't hear the meowing. Sorry.
Yeah, there is.
Sorry. Sean's comment. I was like, oh my god.
It sort of captured the mood of panic and distress. It's great. I think it sort of had the sort of, oh no.
It's a nightmare. It was a really tough round, a really hairy round, and it
100%.
didn't get easier from there on out as well, going out of the pods, because that was like, this is in the pods and we expected to win all games in the pods, but everyone was like, Spain's going to be a tricky game for you, and we come out and we drew it, and we only just drew it as well. We were just like, we don't want that to cost us future, because you are out there going, we have to win out now, we have to win all our games. But it was also, the Spanish was also really good guys. I think going in there, some of the teams were saying stuff about some of the Spanish players. Other teams were like, "Oh, you have to watch out, blah blah." But I don't think we had any bad games in that game. We didn't have any any issues. We didn't really have any from what I saw, sportsmanship issues or ref issues have to come in there. You get refs into all your games because you're disputing rules and stuff. But I don't think we had any issues in the game. It was actually really nice, and we made sure to get photos with everyone, every opponent at the end of the round. Jersey swaps and stuff.
Got really big on lying on the ground. He seemed to be doing that quite
absolutely. A lot. The guy had 10 jerseys, managed to swap 15 of them. I don't know. He's got jerseys from every nation and every team going. But you managed to still get them. We had a really nice round of them. Even though other countries were like, oh, we have to watch out. Blah, blah, blah. But, people could have been saying that about other teams. We went in there and we had a really nice experience in there, and it was a really tough draw, and they deserved to push us to the draw as well. They played really well. They got really good players.
It feels like there's lessons. There's so many things kind of remind me of singles there as well. Which is whatever anyone else says about anyone else,
you just brush it aside.
Play the game and see what the person's like. And a lot of the time, you'll be pleasantly surprised, right?
Absolutely.
But I think it demonstrates that underdog mentality of, well, I'll do something a bit different, because
take you by surprise. And
that's the thing.
We're not supposed to do that.
With a world like teams, where teams are working so hard to know how it's going to go. Throwing a few things that just don't go the way they would normally go, or just take a couple of risks that you wouldn't expect them to risk, completely changes how you can plan.
Absolutely.
So although in this case, obviously, that could have backfired, because it goes the way they want, it ends up throwing a massive spanner and working in their favour. So that's really interesting to see. But I can see how that would then distress you, because again, you've done all this prep, you've got all these ideas, and then you're like, oh no, are people going to throw stuff at this?
It completely changes our colour in the matrix. We go, well, that was down for us as, say, a black. We're supposed to get 12 points out of it, say, and that's a swing. And it's an 0-20 swing, 20-0 swing. That's literally it. And it comes down to our information as well of how we practiced. And we go, we've practiced this matchup X amount of times, and our players have done this. So we've practiced into this matchup, and the guy we went against plays in a certain way. So say I play Vic, and he plays in a certain way, and we're like, oh, well, other players are going to play like that. And for them to do something completely different, we're like, That's our information.
Yes.
And that's like, we're like, wow. Like, we've only practiced into someone that's plays this very methodical, reactive response here on such an army. And then suddenly someone's gone super aggressive and go, I'm going to go first. And it's like, what? Let's go. Like,
I love that.
We hadn't practiced
variety.
that. We hadn't expected that at all.
Yeah,
and
that variety is so cool in 40k. I love the way people can just play armies in completely different ways.
Yeah.
But it makes preparing for it difficult unless you're covering all of these different aspects.
Yeah.
So it sounds like those in different ways, two tough pods, right? You know, Wales obviously hitting some really top teams and having to really battle for it, and then England having a very difficult experience I guess just in terms of setting the mentality and the mood for the next round. That is stressful, right? Feeling like you've had some surprises and there's some stuff you need to be a little bit wary of. And I don't know about you, I always find with teams events, people then immediately after a game like that, people are looking at their mates. It's like, oh no, I'm worried about it now. I don't like the idea of
are they correct?
Yeah. And it sort of has this chain effect where the next round people can be a bit cautious or a bit worried with things. So it's not always easy. So let's carry on with you, Jack. I'm conscious, obviously, you've got sort of time limitations tonight. But I guess, how did you guys sort of bounce back from that going into the next round? What did you guys do to sort of pull together, and then how did the next couple of rounds go?
Yeah, I think we just draw on the experience of the other guys of going. I think someone said there, Poland came second last year with a loss and a draw.
Yeah,
we've drawn one game. It doesn't matter. Every game is we go into that as another game.
Yeah.
And we went in there, we knew Australia and Belgium had drew. So we could draw Australia or Belgium.
Yeah.
And we drew Austria.
Okay.
And we were in no way confident, like super confident into that. Like, so not like thinking, oh, this isn't a so-called top 8 team. But they are. They've just won the War Masters. They've been smashing their pod. And suddenly they're like, wow, this is a team that we have to take seriously. And there was no going into that round underprepared at all. We're like, we have to super prepare because this team has been playing really well all tournament, has been in the War Masters, has been getting because they've played the War Masters, they probably got a ton more reps this week than we have. So we've been practicing obviously over the weeks and stuff, but they've been practicing into the meta here and now,
and on the
this
terrain
week, the terrain right now. So they're fresher with it, and they've been smashing it, and they've got at the time maybe you could argue the Eldar player won the War Masters, so you could say, I'm the best player in the singles player in the world, I'm the best Eldar player in the world. There was he smashed the War Masters and going, wow, this is going to be very tricky.
In the world.
No, but you can have to, but you have to assume.
I think he played against him, didn't he?
Wow, he did.
You carry on.
But we went into that and we were like, this is going to be a very tough round. Again, coming out the Matrix thinking this is very drawy, potentially a small win. And I think that was out of the pairing process into that round.
Yeah.
And I think that happened a lot in every round because of the nature of 10th and the nature of the Matrix and stuff like that. And maybe our army composition as well. We came out looking at most of our Matrix were between the maybe 82 to 92 range after pairings. Like most rounds, and sometimes you are overperformed, and obviously into Poland it was less, but we went in there tricky, but we also had the tech of the T-Suns into Eldar. We felt very confident with.
So
very confident with.
Watching at home, this was the exciting bit, right? So obviously Thousand Suns have made it into a bunch of teams.
Yep.
You've got Vic who's running Thousand Suns, and we know Vic is a guy who likes to solve problems, right? And so there's something, you're looking at that. And this was the round where that came up huge because Vic's Thousand Suns beat the Eldar player in question, right? Beat the winner of the War Masters, who'd done fantastically and played. I'd watched a few of his games. He played fantastically well. The Eldar mirror at the end of War Masters was actually
into Fred,
genuinely a really interesting Eldar game, and I haven't seen tons of those in recent times because they both kept in it. Like, it's so often a blowout, and they both kept right in it. It was a really interesting one, and so that obviously flipped the round for you. So this was something that you guys had in the locker almost, was it?
That's something we kept in the locker because I think I told you earlier. Round 1, we had an opportunity to put Vic into Eldar. I think it was round 1 or round 2, and we chose not to.
Yeah.
Or to put him as like a put forward or something like that, we could potentially get the Eldar because it's a really good matchup for us. We chose not to go for it and to pair our matrix accordingly elsewhere, because we see the top teams will see Vic do really well into Eldar, because that's what we practice. We practice the T-Suns that either blunts the Eldar or can get a small win potentially. And we had a lot of reps into that. Vic had a lot of reps into that, playing Manny as well. So playing a top Eldar player, playing into the Wraith Knight builds and stuff as well. So we were very confident going into that one, but we didn't want to give it away too early.
Yes,
we didn't give it away round one.
You almost
we didn't give it away, so we held it over there. And then Austria came up and was like, "This is it." But also, you got to play the War Master winner. Good luck, right? But this is the list that can dunk the Eldar, because you go into a lot of pairings and thinking the Eldar could 20-0 someone, and you look at the matrix and it's got a lot of bad matchups for us. And other teams will have the same thing, because Manny went in and smashed a lot of teams 20-0. He scored a lot of points, so they have it the other way, and you always go into the pairings expecting their Eldar to get 17 and ours to get 17 averagely or whatever. So we were like, this is the one we can dent it here. And Vic played that very well.
So that's extremely interesting, and again, that's another little dynamic in teams, isn't it? It's just cooking up these solutions to those armies everyone thinks there is no answer to, either making it really difficult. It's the role I love in teams. I love being in that position where it's like, oh, this book's just come out, it's very scary. It's like, I will go in and make that much harder than it has any right to be. And having that in a team, or in this case, obviously winning the game, right? It's something that flips the matchup everyone assumes is a win on its head. Is a remarkable tool. So did that pretty much secure the round at that stage? Did the other thing
that did, because we got a small win into that one. So having that round, having that win into the Eldar there actually pushed us into the win category for that round. And also on that, the reason why we took Nids in the end over Imperial Knights is because we tailored it for the GSE matchup.
Oh yes,
that was again a big one, tailoring for GSE and tailoring for Eldar going into that tournament. Can it do better than Imperial Knights? That mid-listed.
When we were up at the last Element teams, I played against the team with Adam Lane in, and Adam Lane was on the Tyranids. And they put him in something else for me for my GSC. I think I took the Eldar, and Adam was like, "Were you worried about the Nids?" I was like, "Yes, Adam, I was very worried about the Nids. I saw that. I know full well what you were going to do, and I didn't want any part in it."
Your gargoyles just at the front with score mines. It's like you can come in over there or something like that, and the Mouse Scepters at the front just go. Hey, you can try and pop them, but they are very hard to kill.
It's a nightmare situation. So that was another really cool thing to see, because Nids were quite prevalent, and again they've got that really cool rule as a spoiler. So it's really, really interesting. So what were then with the subsequent rounds for you? What did you hit next?
We hit France next, who just beat Australia. So we were just like, okay. So France had just beaten Australia. They paired down, I believe, into Australia. Australia paired up just based on points, because I think they won out their round. They won out their pod, but Australia got a draw out their pod. I think something like that. But we ended up pairing into them straight after Austria, and we're like, under no illusions that this team are going to be very good.
Yes.
Going into the tournament very aware of how France itself as a country is very teams orientated, and a lot of teams, I think, underestimate them. That they have their league system with teams, and that's how they pick their.
Oh, that's interesting.
They have a League 1, League 2, League 3, and you have, say, like 6++, right? Say it gets League 1, it wins League 1. You can choose, I believe you can choose like a captain out there to represent the national team, and then you can choose players out of League 1 and stuff like that.
That's quite an egalitarian system.
To go into the national team.
Yeah, I like that.
Because they've got an academy as well for developing talent as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And they've got the baguette makers, as Scrivo said earlier. They got people making baguettes.
Got one of their dice.
Yeah,
sounds like the French run a classy system. I like it. That's cool.
With multiple streams as well. They had, I think, they had 2 streams going on. So we had 2 stream games that round. So we had Mike on a GSC and Robbo on the Nids, both playing on stream. And I think it was at one point like 3,000 viewers.
Amazing.
One of the players, the GSC player, his mum and dad turned up, and they got interviewed on French television as well. So they were getting to like interviews as well. Whilst he was having to play Manny. I was like, oh, his mum and dad are watching him, and Manny's just rolling 6s. I was like, oh no. It's like Wraith Knight rolling 6s, and his mum and dad are watching him. I'm like, oh no, that poor guy.
Manny going global with the 6s. I love it. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. That was actually one of the things that excited me this year. Was just, it was a spectacle, right? The streaming was awesome. It was really cool coverage. I think the team's coverage was great. The excitement in around it was palpable. We were all talking about each round in the chat and all this stuff, and it feels like it's growing and growing. So that's a massively exciting energy to be part of, I think. And how did that round actually play out for you guys?
We got another small win out of that.
Very nice,
and that was very tight.
Yeah.
Very tight. I think we had a really good round. I think that was probably one of the best rounds of the tournament into France. And like in terms of just like general sportsmanship and how it went, we went into the round and our coaches said, notoriously, we've had very good rounds with France. If you don't need to get a judge over and you can sort things out between you, if you want to give a little take backs and stuff here and there, like it's very much, we've always had a very good relationship with France. They're going to do the same with you. They're not going to be super hardball with you. No. And if you don't feel like you have to be, the same, it's going to be you're going to have a very nice experience with them. Yeah. Coaches are super nice. They had, I think they had a difficult round before with coach interaction, and they had to so they came in there and they spoke to us about it and they told us about it and they were open. They said, we had this very difficult. Is it okay if you stand back from the tables? You're not like, if you're talking to a player, you talk with us in the background. Stuff is absolutely fine because they had an equal amount of coaches and we got off on the right foot straight away.
That's lovely.
And they, throughout the round, we were looking up. They were admitted that they were a little bit down as well, like in terms of just on the cusp of a low draw to loss. To small loss, and I was just small win to high draw. Last 10 minutes, it swings, and we're like, damn, it could go into a draw. And then suddenly the cards come back again, and we're like, no, we're going to get the win. And it was like, and it got right to the end, and we just pipped them, I think, at the end with a small win. And we just had a really, really great round with them. And it was super tense and super tight. And there was a lot of messages on my phone going, this is the tightest round going at the moment. And at the end, they all said they would deserve, got the win, they would deserve to win, and they played really well. And the foundations that they've got, it's like year 2 of their league system and stuff, and their new thing. It's only going to get stronger, and next year they're going to be very, very good. Like they already beaten Australia this year. They were very good, and they're going to be even better next year.
Yeah,
that's
really
exciting. Very class team.
Yeah, no, definitely,
and very good players.
Feels like there were a bunch of teams really knocking on the door of that sort of top 8. For the seeding and stuff, and that's really exciting. Great. Okay, so what was next, Jack?
What was next? We beat France, and we were then paired into the US of A.
The US
of A for the next morning. So
wow, it doesn't get any easier.
And that was the day that you also don't get an hour late in. You are up an hour earlier on Sunday. So the round starts at 8:30.
Oh my word!
8:30. The doors will be open at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
You can't, no, exactly. Let alone play USA.
And the hotel was 40 minutes away.
Oh no!
To walk.
Yeah, okay. It was a walk. It was a walk on cobblestones. it was a walk on cobblestones that you don't want to do all the time. Yeah. But yeah, we played the USA, and we
wow. So that's a lot of the top names, certainly in the sort of the world that I'm aware of, all throwing down on the same board. That is incredibly exciting. So do you want to give us a little bit of a blow-by-blow of this round then? Because it's quite an exciting one.
Yes, so we first we had the stream game. We had Matt Robertson against Jack Harpster, Art of War versus Art of War on stream on the War Games live stream first, and I think we felt coming out of the pairings, we felt okay. I think we looked at about 82 points, so that is a draw. It's a high draw, just a high draw. But it's we felt it was in the drawy category at that stage. We had Eldar into Custodes. They also had Eldar into Custodes. So it was like they basically just, I guess, we expected them to cancel each other out, but they actually went a little differently.
That can go different ways.
They can go different ways depending on how you play it, because the Custodian player is always not favoured in that matchup. The Eldar is also it's depending on how many 4-ups you can make, right?
That is exactly what I was going to say. They can get a turn of magic 4s and they can hang in there a little longer, and that makes a big difference. Or they just fall over.
we had a great. Going into that round, we had a great relationship with them. We'd already been out with them on the Wednesday night, a couple of the guys. We'd been out with John Lennon and Jack on the Wednesday night. So we'd already been out with them.
That was a very messy night.
Yes, drinking games ensued, and it was very bad for a couple of us. And, but it was for a few people, and the Welsh were there as well. But we already have a really great relationship. A lot of the players know each other already. I think going into that team, you're surprised there's no egos in that team. You're able to have, as someone like me who doesn't do is not like a household name or anything like that in England or anything like that, but can go in there and have an all normal conversation with any one of their players or coaching staff, and they're just absolutely sound.
Yeah.
There's no egos there whatsoever, and you expect it to be like the YouTube stars of America coming over and stuff. Everyone's super cool. Everyone's super cool, and we had such a great relationship and such a great round with them. They had equal amount of coaches as well. We were just like one on each table basically for each one. We just had a great conversation with them. The one matchup we thought we had the win on again was Vic on his T-Suns.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
So the day before, Lucas, their Orc player, had gone into Pumba's T-Suns from Poland and beaten him.
Okay.
But
yeah.
we playing a different list.
Yeah.
And Vic, I think, went fixed secondaries on this one.
Okay.
With the amount of trucks they had to bring it down.
Yes.
And was able to pick up enough trucks to score the points. I
Yeah.
can't remember what the other secondary was he took. But managed to get the win into that one. But obviously they went into there thinking that it was in their favour because they'd already won the previous round into Poland.
Yeah.
But it was a very different list, and we felt ourselves more confident into that. But so we both went in there thinking that we were both,
I love that with pairings. Yeah, everyone's happy afterwards.
Absolutely, they're happy and we were happy. We were just like, well, one of us is going to be wrong, and it can.
One is wrong, yeah.
One is wrong, one is right. But also, I think that comes down to cards. It comes down to what secondaries do, how you play, who goes first, who goes second. There's a lot of swing in this edition as well.
Yeah.
And Vic managed to play that really well, and we managed to get the points out of that game that maybe they weren't expecting us to. And we ended up getting to 84 points in the end. Very close round. 2 points away from a win.
That's it. You need 2 more, right?
And
So
it was but it was such a good round. And there was a couple moments where you could look in some of the games and think we could have got the 2 points there or here. But alternatively, we could have lost it here or there as well. And they pushed us all the way to the line. And either way, if we'd beaten them or not, we would have had to play Poland. But having that win there would have just, I think, guaranteed us a podium at that point.
Yes.
Win, lose, or draw into Poland. Which is for us going out of the tournament, that was basically how close we were to being on the podium. Like
and those
them 2 points in
tough.
that game specifically was how close it was.
Yeah.
And it was also funny because we were shouting US Meta Soft the whole weekend. The whole weekend, US Meta Soft. And we went in there and we go,
I wonder who was
we
leading
kind of won a little bit. Like, it was a draw, but we did score more points than you, know. But we had a super, and we're like, US Meta, okay. US Meta, okay. That was all right. It's all right. So that was really nice. We had a lot of banter with them. And
that's good fun.
It was a good time. But sadly, did not get the win. We were just shy of it.
Which at this stage starts making things tough, right, in terms of final placings. If you're on 2 draws already, then you have to win.
Yeah, that's it.
And just a quick shout out. Hello, Andrew Baldwin. Lovely to have you here. I miss you. I haven't seen you in ages. And also Existence UK. You're right. Yes, the USA Orc Truck Blitz is awesome.
It's very good.
That Orc list is a very me list.
As well.
You go
very
out,
good.
you die, you score.
Yeah.
It's glorious. It's it's the dream. I love that stuff.
He's an Orc faction specialist as well, Lucas. He is. He only plays Orcs. He's very good. Very good player.
No, I really enjoyed seeing Orcs able to do some important things across the event. I think that was awesome. Obviously, there were, again, all these armies with a bit of sort of sadness around them at the minute, and it's just cool to see people who know what they're doing lead the way with that stuff. It's absolutely awesome. So, what was waiting for you in your final game, Jack?
So we knew not winning that, we'd have to go into Poland. Win or draw, we'd have to go into Poland either way.
Yeah.
So
because you don't get anywhere in WTC without playing Poland.
If you want to win the WTC, you have to beat Poland, and that is the way. And it's always been the way. So, and it got into the final round as if we beat Poland and USA didn't smash Sweden too hard, or even if Sweden drew into them, then we'd be world champions. And that was it. It was like, you have to win. I think the emphasis was on us a little bit, and the emphasis was also on us in the USA game because we'd already drew one, and
that's the thing.
They'd scored more points than us in the pod. So they drew into Poland, but we drew into Spain, but they'd scored more in the pod. So we knew we had to beat US, whereas they didn't have to beat us to potentially win.
And that's an interesting dynamic, right?
They could score a bunch of, they still had a chance to win even if they drew us. They had to beat us, but not by much. We had to beat them. So we had to push heavier than they did. Into Poland, we have to win. There's no draw. So we have to win. And we came out of pairings, and this was the one round I think I didn't really witness the pairings. Because we were setting up a lot of the tables. We were back on table 1 on the stream tables and stuff. So I was setting up a lot of tables there with their coaches. And I came out and we had a team meeting before, and we were projected 82,
Okay.
which is a draw. And a draw probably puts us third, probably puts us on the podium. So keep to your colours. And Manny came out straight away. I was like, I'm going to push for 20. Everyone keeps their colours and I'll push for 20. Like that's it. We'll just come out as long as everyone can bring back their points. We go for 20, and it didn't work out that way. We I think we went into a round. We felt strong for our custodies into their guard. I think we're not strong. We felt like we'd get some points, and Skark just turned around and was like, "This is a bad
man.
He's a bad man.
He's a horrible
bad man.
He's horribly brilliant. It's terrifying to watch him play.
It was like one time I saw Josh had killed his one of his Earthshaker carriages. He spent 2 CP to bring it back. Brought it back out of reserves in Josh's deployment zone, did teleport homers with it. With this thing this thing has 0 move, but he just put it out of reserves the next turn with the 2 CP strat and just goes teleport homers with this Earthshaker carriage. I was like, what is going on?
He's on a different level, man.
And he was just crazy. And Typhus was coming around through the round, and we were talking a lot. We have a good relationship with him, and he felt like they were on top. After pairings and during the rounds, they felt like they were on top, and it was slowly slipping away from us during there. And he kept showing me memes of the top of Skark's head, this bald patch with the grey hair, and he was like, "No, nothing scares me except that. That scares me." Or guys with this hairline has 150% chance of stealing your girl and stuff like that. Like I was like, "Oh my god!" Like it was just kept sending me memes, and in the end, they were deserving winners. They crushed us. They had all their pairings right. They performed really well on the day in the round. The round was over, and Nas and Pumbaa were still going at each other because they had a personal vendetta against it. They had to beat each other. So it was like, okay, Pumbaa, you've won the WTC now. And he's still playing Nas, and Nas is like, right, I'm going to spend 1 CP for exploding 6s, like that, and they're just like doing this. He's like, and Pumbaa was like, right, I'm going to use my 1 free reroll, Cabal reroll, and it's like this, and it's like he's doing all this stuff, and they're having their own game for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes after they'd already won. And
competitors, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. They come round and there was so much emotion in that team because they haven't won since 2016 as well. I believe it is 2016.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really cool thing for them.
And there was so much emotion with Skark and Typhus and stuff, who have previously won it with the older teams.
Yeah,
and now they've come back and they've been the veterans there, and seen the young guys now win their first one. And it was really cool for them. And we were very deflated in ourselves that we didn't win, and we didn't also podium and stuff as well. I think if we podiumed, we'd be a little bit more happy. But we were deflated. We were already looking at what went wrong, what could we have done differently and stuff. And we've already turned to next year to be. We've already spoken the chat today to be like, what do we need to change for next year? How do we prepare for next year? Because it starts now, right? It starts we've had a day to reflect on it. We haven't won, but we played as well as we could. We did as well as we could. We had some great rounds. We almost beat the USA. We beat France in a really tight one, and we played the bet. We had the toughest run-in probably going in the tournament, and we still came 5th. We're still. I think teams will see that we did really well, and that a lot of other countries said you did really well, and they were, as much as there was a anyone but England hashtag, some countries were rooting for us at the end.
Yeah, you got to have a bit of that.
Scrivo wasn't, but some people were. Some people were, but it was nice.
He's duty bound not to. He can't help it.
No, of course.
I was enjoying singing it as a chant at 3 o'clock in the morning in the bars. It was great.
It was deflating at the end, but it also, I think Adam Lane said to me, we had a conversation at the end. He was like, how did you enjoy your experience? I was like, it was one of the best experiences of my life. And it's very hard for you to explain to someone that hasn't been there
100%
what it is like to be a WTC. And it's so cool. And as Vic says, we'll come back stronger next year. We know now, especially with so many new guys, right? We've got new coaches and 3 new players this year. We are like, now we got the hunger to come back next year.
Completely, and I think it's a quite uniquely difficult thing. I mean, I'd say I'm not a long-term follower of WTC, but the idea of going in fresh on a new edition in that period of time is a phenomenally difficult thing, right? There's an awful lot of things to manage, an awful lot of things out of your control. The game itself is still in a place where there's a lot of things out of our control, in a whole bunch of different ways. So I think to navigate that and do really well against really tough opponents is amazing. And I think us guys all following at home were really impressed, and there were some magical moments in there. You got some absolutely brilliant moments, and as I say, losing to a team like Poland, who are brilliant and again set the standard on the hard work and the understanding that they have, is completely and utterly admirable.
It's
And
very
you'll be
well
back
deserved
there
for
and
them.
get them next time.
Yeah, absolutely, very well deserved for them, and their hard work truly paid off for them. And they've set the bar of what you want. That's exactly it. They've beaten you. It just was like, nope, there's a vendetta now. We have to come back and we have to win.
Yeah, it's that lost feeling, and you're back home and you're writing a list and you're fired up and you're ready to go.
People
right?
writing lists on the Eurostar back. We're on the Eurostar back, and Chris was writing lists already. It was like, writing lists already.
There is no better motivation than those near misses, right? It just fires you up and gets you ready to go again. So I'm sure we'll see that squad out there again next year doing brilliantly. So really exciting. Thank you very much for taking us through that, Jack. I guess, from the sort of perspective of a coach, is there anything you've learned? Is there anything that you yourself would do differently? Anything that you'll sort of add to your approach with it in the future, or were you very happy with how you went about things?
I think coming out of this experience, and I said this to Vic and I said this to Mike Porter coming out as we were leaving, I was like, this experience has only made me want to become better as a player. Yeah. It's also made me not want to play singles, but also, away from that, it's been made me want to become a better player and to one day push to be like, I want to be on that team. I don't want to be coaching. Like, I like coaching. I want to be playing. I want to be playing for some, like, in that tournament, because it's so different. It's so cool. It's like, it's just another world. And I really loved it, and I want to be back. Next year, I want to be back, whether I'm coaching or anything. I will be back. I want to be doing the War Masters, and I want to become a better player because of this. And doing the testing against some of them guys as well, just seeing the level they're at, is like, that's the level I want to be at. Yeah. And
that's really exciting, but it's an inspiring thing. And it's awesome that it can be an inspiring thing, I think, and it definitely felt that way. For all of us sitting at home, it was an inspiring thing. We were sort of, when War Masters on, we were all like, we've got to go to War Masters next time.
Absolutely,
we've got to go and be involved. It didn't feel right not being part of it. So it's becoming an institution back at home, and it was really cool to watch. So really well done. Right, we're gonna find out how the Welsh were getting on whilst these battles were ongoing. There were struggles taking place elsewhere. So John. How did it go? What was your first round out of the pod? What did you hit first?
It was into Latvia, who are no kind of low seed, kind of like, that should be a game that we're just going to roll into and just take it easy. They were utter gents, but a complete challenge. And it was one of those kind of ones where every time a result came in, it was like, we're projected to get kind of a mid-draw. Are we going to maintain that? And it was just like, it kept looking kind of ebbs in and flowing, and it was just like, we didn't quite hit it, but it was a 88-72. So it was one of those situations where literally every time there was that kind of double-edged sword of, like, you say to someone, push, but don't push too hard. It's like, you don't want them to push too hard and make risks that then they end up getting no points. So it's like, you're kind of damned either way. So you're like, cool, let's just keep it together and just hope that some cards go. I think that was the round where. There was the next round. There was one that that was the round where our Knights player literally, his dice just went, you want to roll all these dice and have some really good times with it? No, we'll just stop. Yeah. And I've never seen Ash Loftus is one of the most professional players I've ever played with, and he was literally just standing there looking at his dice tray, just going, what is going on? It was literally like all of the bad dice you could have for 7 rounds of a tournament, all in one round. And he's literally going, mathematically, I should have at least got one wound through, but nothing. And he was literally just like, my God. I was just watching him going, I can't go over to him because he's just going to cry. And it's just man. And I think that game, I think on our matrix, let's have a look, because I think that's the one that swung it for us. And he hates to admit it at the time as well. So Knights, and it was into...
It's never a good feeling when you're one of the ones on the wrong end of it.
I think if he got, I think it was a 10 or a 12 he was due, and he didn't get that. That would have got us a low balling win. And literally just if he'd hit, and Ash was very much, if he said he was going to get something, he got it.
Yeah,
So
so that's
that
hard on a
broke-
player that
broke.
knows what they're going to get. Yeah.
So that was really rough as I kind of first out the pod, because we were just like, this felt like the one that it was our chance to like get the win, and it was just like we were just kind of chasing getting that win, the win. Like we're in a different level to England, and I know I completely understand that, but it was just like we want to get that first that green, so then we know. Then you get rolling, right? Because then you got the momentum.
And again, it's like singles. That's how it all starts, right? You have to get those wins, and then you build that momentum.
It was like me in teams form, Tom. It was like, when am I going to get the win? When am I going to get the win? And it was really tough. And then we paired into Czech Republic.
Okay, interesting.
Great team. This was one where literally I honestly thought we were completely out of it. And then one of their players, I'm going to find what player it was, because this was fascinating. He did a gambit, and it was he drew the one to get stuff in corners.
Yeah, okay.
And our Custodes player had everything in the corners by the end of the game. So literally, it failed miserably.
Okay, so he was trying to change things with the gambit.
Yeah, it would have completely like pushed them right into a big win. Didn't matter in the end, and ended up being 82-78, and it was just literally like, oh, come on. It was this close. And we got a 19-1 with our Custodes player who had literally done War Masters, played 4 games, and he was just like, am I going to get a win? And then he finally got his win. And it was just like, it was so cool to see. But it was just like... And then for round 6...
That round was a draw then?
That was a draw.
Okay.
But it was,
so that's
a losing draw. So we're starting to get there. And then we went to Bulgaria, who England had warned us about, that they were going to be too much fun and we were going to have some great time.
So I got charmed so hard by the Bulgarians, man. When we played them at the teams event, they were just dangerously charismatic.
They were so happy.
Did they give you shots before the game as well? Yeah.
There was
had one of those.
There was smoking. It all got very out of hand. It was great.
20 minutes later, I could still feel my esophagus on fire. I was like, I hadn't been drinking. I was like, don't do that to me. What are you trying to do to me? And this was a game that literally on paper we were like, right, this is one that on the Matrix says we probably can get a win out of this without us even kind of pushing it. And we did, but it was like every game, it wasn't a slouch. It wasn't like a situation where, like, even our Eldar player, it took a bit. It did take a bit. But I think that was the round where their Necron player put all his stuff on the line and went, come to me, Eldar. If I go... No, it was into Deathwatch. He went, if the Necron player goes first, he can shoot me off the table. And my Deathwatch player, Nick, was just like, I'm in trouble if he goes first. He went first, and then none of the shooting worked. So then Nick just went, I'll pick you up. And it was terrifying. It was so terrifying. I was like, this is torturous. So I'm watching going, this ruins the entire Matrix, but we got the win. We got the win in the end. And it was a 93, 67. So
very, very good.
We finally got some green, because being a team where 4 of our players were new, I think at that point, everyone was going into the last day. We'd not had a win. We'd had a winning draw, which doesn't count.
And
things
can spiral as well, right?
Yeah.
Things can very easily spiral.
Emotionally, I think the team were kind of, the morale wasn't always there, and it was tough because I'm there trying to like encourage them. And like when things are down, I'm not the best person to encourage people. I'm just going to make some really bad taste jokes to make them giggle or do something stupid, and that doesn't always help. So it was kind of nice. We got that win, and then suddenly it was like, cool, we've got that. And I think then on points by that point, as long as we got a draw in our last game, we'd be doing better than we had the previous year.
Oh, fantastic!
That was our goal.
You're
in my head, it was like we want to do better than last year. So there was definitely some progress, and then we went into the last round into Luxembourg.
Okay.
And it was a hard fought game, and it was lots of games that looked like they were going kind of either way constantly. It was just like I was watching it going, I can't do the Matrix for this now. Like I can't keep monitoring it, because like I go up to him and goes, it's going to be a 0-3, and then I come back 20 minutes later and he looks sour faced and he goes, actually it's going to probably be a 6, and then next thing you know he's going, I'm probably getting a 12. I'm like, I can't calculate. It's like this is like, and it just sometimes it just shows that the dice and the cards can just spiral it as well, which is just it was surreal. So we did get the second win in the end there.
Oh, fantastic.
So it meant that we doubled our battle points, I think, is from last year. So it was like year on year, positive growth.
That's really exciting.
A quite inexperienced team, comparatively, like half the team being new, it was something nice to celebrate with. Like to end it and go, right, we've actually, there's a bonus to this now. It's not just like we all turned up and did badly, because no one wants to go to a tournament for their first time and then go, I won't come back next year. That would be the worst for me. It's like if all the team had gone and gone, don't want to go next year. But I think all it's done now is kind of encourage that everyone's just going to want to do better, like with the England team, but on a different level. Just kind of like go back, push, do the reps, get all that practice in. And to me, I was like, I want to try to, like Jack said, like I want to go back. If I could go as a player, great. Maybe not. If not, I'll coach, because coaching was like, it was something I didn't think I'd want to do, but there's something about being someone that kind of just makes things not a problem. Like it's the person in the background just doing everything.
Yeah,
as well as
you kind of live that life, John. As someone
I
who
know,
knows you very well, you've always been that person.
I do, apparently. It's like someone looking really kind of like solemn and like bring them over water, and suddenly they start smiling. Like, there you go. They were probably thirsty as well.
Yeah.
But they just didn't want to say. It was silly little things. Like it felt nice to be part of a thing as well.
Yeah, that's what it's about. I think this is the thing. This is the thing that struck me about the whole event this time observing it is, I still struggle a bit with the idea 40k is a sport, right? It's still something I find it hard to take seriously sometimes, because it's a space game that I love, and like we go and we compete and everything else. But I think watching Worlds and getting involved in it and seeing how much everyone, all you guys were getting wrapped up in it and how exciting it was, the highs and lows of it. I can buy it. I can buy that it can work that way. I can see that it can be a really enjoyable thing done as that, and it's seeing these really high standard games, people talking through things in a really sporting way, helping each other out, really collaborative and intelligent, high stakes games at the top of this, and the sort of the emotions invested in it. And you're like, yeah, absolutely it can. And it can be a very fun one whilst it's being played as well. And, considering how 10th edition dropped, for early 10th edition at WTC to be played and feel like that, but I thought that was remarkable. I was really impressed and really happy with it, and it's so much energy has come back and come out of it. I know our team watching it, we've been so energized. We've been like, oh, we've got to work harder and try harder. These guys are making us want to up our game, man. So absolutely amazing, and really cool for Wales to finish better than the previous time as well, John. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know where did that place you in the end? What was the
24th?
Okay, 24th.
With 505 battle points.
Yeah, super exciting. Yeah,
I don't think it puts us up a tier, but
no, I guess not. But
no,
it consolidates you in one, which is great.
Yeah, which is it's all progress. So growth is growth in my mind. So it's like I would have liked it being bigger of a jump, but like to pop into tier 2 would have been great. But I don't think it was necessarily within our grasps, if I'm being honest. So.
Well, no, I think you're competing with an entire international world that are all getting better all the time, right? So
exactly. So
staying relatively in the same area isn't a reflection on not going anywhere, because that's not how this stuff works. You have to get better and better and better to stay
exactly.
on top, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, brilliant. Well, thanks to both of you for talking me through that, because it's I say big fans of both of you. It's really nice. We've had some great comments in here. Existence UK said, yeah, WTC looked amazing. I agree, it did look amazing. That I was surprised by. Right, the terrain was brilliant. There was some really cool terrain on some of the boards. I thought it was really interesting. Matt's and Jack's game on the stream was a fantastic display of sportsmanship. Yeah, 100%. I watched some really good sporting games, and I thought the commentary was amazing, and it was cool to have commentary from different countries as well. Vic VJ says you're incredible, Jack. I agree. You were, Jack. I didn't see it, but I can fully
I kept
believe
going
it.
over to check on him, and it was lovely to kind of just go over, and like coaches, especially from previous games, would come and just go, "Oh, how are you guys getting on?" It was lovely because you just kind of just check on each other, and the way that the tables were laid out, you may not have seen it in the footage, but it was like in the middle you have the pairings table, and then all of the tables were around it, so you were fighting in this circle.
Yeah.
So rather than going up and down or running down a line, you had this little area. It was kind of nice because it just like gave you a home base, which was really quite cool.
Yeah,
there's like a coaching camaraderie as well as
like
a
of course
camaraderie.
Yeah.
So you end up swapping jerseys with other coaches and stuff like that.
That's really nice.
This is
you spend the amount of time with them. Yeah, exactly. Because you sit there with the other coaches. Like the two jerseys I got from France and USA are both from other coaches, because you sat there both watching the same table and you're both chatting, and you develop that relationship during the game, just like the players do. So players are playing each other for 4 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, so they get their relationship.
Yeah.
You're doing the same with the coaches, because you're constantly walking around doing the same thing that they're doing. And I think it's easy as a coach to go out there and go, I didn't really do much, but the players are constantly saying, like Vic just there, are so nice, and be like, oh, you've really helped me there, and you don't feel like you've actually done that much. No. But so. And
that's
until you're a player,
right?
And no, exactly.
You're making it bigger than the sum of its parts. That's an amazing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, and Scrivo kept coming over, and I came over. If I was going to get water or something, I'd pop by on the way and so see how your games were going and stuff as well. And you say, oh, how's it going? How did your parents do and stuff like that? How do you feel going into there? And you just have a little brief chat about how you're feeling in the round generally, and just give them a little overview and stuff like that. they're not going to go and tell someone else. They're going to go, I'm going to tell the Polish now you're doing. That's it. There we go.
You can't really chat the ear off of the players either, because there's only so much you're allowed to interact with the players as well.
No,
you've got to be
exactly,
careful how much you communicate with
Yes.
them. So
it's
quite a lonely thing if you're literally on your own. So if there's other coaches,
you just chat to them constantly.
It's nice.
Chat to them about Warhammer and how you land your Warhammer and how the game's going and stuff like that as well. Just because they're other players,
that's what it's all for, isn't it? It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Brilliant. All right. Thank you very much, lads. Right. We'll dive into some questions now because we had a few questions. Jack, if you need to go, you're very welcome to.
I've got 5-10 minutes.
I've got 5-10 minutes. Wonderful.
5-10 minutes,
and all of these wonderful people in chat, if you have any questions for our coaches or any general questions about 40k more broadly.
Any England comments? England!
England! More England. More England.
More England.
Very welcome, of course. Feel free to chuck them in the chat and we'll do our best to deal with them as well. So, what have we got in our podcast questions? We have a few. That's a very topical one. When the nerf to Eldari comes in September and other factions get their tweaks and buffs, who do you think will have a meteoric rise and which factions do you feel will be unaffected? And I've been told I'm not allowed to pick Votann, even though I'm a Votann main now, which is very rude.
I know what you're painting. You're a T-Suns player now, right? You're a T-Suns player now.
That's the real answer to that. Is on my paint table, and it's got gold trim and blue armor. I think it's an interesting one with T-Suns. I think T-Suns are very strong. I feel like they'll be in a good position.
They're just very hard to use.
But this is the thing.
Of their win ratio.
This is the thing. I don't think it's not push it on the table and everything will immediately go right. So that may constrain them to a degree. Custodes, if they don't get touched, are still very good. Right,
very good.
It's a strong army. Necrons are kind of one of these ones that are increasingly popular in Ascendant. Again, if there's certain armies that can kill them off, get taken out, then I think they're very strong as well. I mean, but the other thing we have to account for is also they might just nerf Eldar and it doesn't put it away either. That can just
other things come out of that. They nerf certain
Mm.
aspects of it and other units come out.
This is it'd be interesting. I'm very curious to see whether this current trend. It would be cool if it does. I think people will take a lot of ideas from WTC.
Thing to deal with like hordes. I was like, cool.
And the aggressors coming out of the Land Raider, and then just working through the aggressors coming out. It's like, oh, maybe that's not bad tech. Maybe that's pretty good tech.
Yeah, I do think Marines haven't been explored anything like as much as they perhaps should have been yet. I think because there have been some very powerful, obvious options. They haven't been. They simply just a lot of the best players in the UK just haven't dabbled in Marines much. It was interesting seeing Innis with Dark Angels, right, and again Poland with Dark Angels. We know Deathwatch are good, but I wonder where Deathwatch sit if Xenos aren't as dominant in a meta as they currently are. I guess they probably.
But then if a new NIDS codex and NIDS actually
That's
become
the
strong,
thing.
then maybe
Happy hunting for them.
Yeah.
I think the answer here is that hopefully it gets interesting.
I think if it shakes up a little bit. Like the fat middle kind of raises. Hopefully it doesn't then leave the trade like everyone trading at the bottom. Like the last thing I want to see is Votann to just get even lower. Because that'd be
it could happen. It could happen.
I think it might.
They might slap some buffs on Votann and a couple of. There's a few of the lower armies where you do wonder what could happen if they get jacked up a lot. Like things like
just some points decreases.
Things
for
like
them
Tau could be quite scary with the right buffs slapped on them. That'd be interesting to see. We've got a follow-up question from Existence UK, which is quite similar. What WTC list do we think we're likely to see smashing some singles tournaments soon?
The Wraith Knight with Avatar, that Manuel.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people will cover
Wraith Knight and Avatar
and go on that,
and the Incons perhaps as well as the variation.
The Incon's very good
because Josh had just had a run in the UK with that just before you guys left, and it was powerful.
Leeds,
yeah. So I think some combination of that, if they survive the September changes, will definitely be very popular. NIDS are going to keep on experimenting with the stuff they're doing. I think as I say, Thousand Suns, because they're a very technical, tricky army. I think the fact a ton of top players have taken Thousand Suns gives a bunch of brain food, right? I know I was looking at those just going, oh, that's amazing. There's really cool stuff you can do with that.
Whenever you were sending me lists while we were at breakfast,
this was it. I'd started writing it.
Me and Vic were like next to each other eating breakfast or lunch or something like that, and you were sending me lists of like Thousand Suns lists. And I was just going through, and we were chatting T-Suns at the same time. I was like, okay,
it's really funny. It's like, I'd literally say a Thousand Suns Army has fallen into my hands locally, which was brilliant, and I knew Jack was a very good player, so I was sort of writing him and sending him stuff, and then you're looking at these things and you're like, oh, okay, there's a lot to learn here. There's a bunch of different stuff in different places, but it's interesting.
How many Vortex Beasts have you got, Tom?
I don't own any Vortex Beasts, mate. So
Lee Jones has 2
Vortex
Beasts.
Okay.
I'm sure
I'll bother Lee Jones.
Lee's got 2. Don't worry.
You
only need one. You only need one.
Only need one. That's good to know. It's a very weird model. I love it. Absolutely love it.
You can run through, but there were so many lists with that faction at WTC where some guys like Australia took 3 Vortex Beasts, no Magnus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Magnus.
No Magnus. I think it was like one of the only nations that didn't take Magnus. When we were against the Austria guys, they took 10 Terminators, Magnus, and 3 Vortex Beasts.
Yeah,
which I have ran. We did run that early in testing, and I ran that, and that was very fun. Just super thick. Super thick. Yeah, it's very chunky. But super cool. When he got first, he just chucked everything on the board. Just went boop, like that, and just chucked it all in the GSE. Because he was going to Mike, just went into GSE. I was like, I'm just going to put everything forward, and you can't drop in. It was like, and it's all thick. It's all like,
this is my current fear with GSC. It's just so many games where I'm just not going to get any space. But we'll see. We'll have to see. I'm trying to work out if there's ways to adapt GSC for what's coming, and that's still something I need to work on. I think because they're so anemic on the ground early game at the moment. That's the problem they have, and I'm not sure what the fixes are. I've got to work out how to make that work. Anyway, right, we've got another question, and I think we've dealt with them. Sharuni thinks it'll be Marines. Well, I agree. I think Marines will definitely do well.
Yep.
This is quite a fun one. So, it's Desert Island Discs of Tzeentch, which is quite appropriate 40k game. You're washed up on a desert island. Everyone gets a beer and a copy of the core rules, but you've also been washed up with one army build from any point in the meta in 8th, 9th, or 10th. One mission from those editions, and one opponent or army to face. So you're picking one build from across 8th, 9th, 10th to play. You're picking one opponent and army to play against, and one mission. It's like your dream 40k match. That is tough.
Oh, that's so tricky.
Yeah.
I didn't play an 8th, so I can already rule out 8th.
Yeah. Okay.
I already ruled out 8th.
I don't remember 8th missions at this stage.
It was just hold and kill more, right?
I could use this as an opportunity to force someone that I know hates Data Scry Salvage to play me against it forever.
I know. I was gonna say Data Scry Salvage.
I love Data Scry Salvage, man.
With probably my 9th guard list. I ran the Scout Sentinels. Yeah. And you put them on the UKTC terrain. You put them, all 3 of them, so 3 separate ones on every single objective. You go, if I go first, I'm just going to order them to be obsec and sticky objectives. And that was the plan. You just go sticky objectives straight off the bat, and you have a tank commander in the corner, and then Leontis over here, and you go, right, I'm going to stretch out the order, and then they're just 6 inches away from each other, so they can spread it. And you go, there you go, there's have it. And I would probably, because I had that one. I did Data Scry. I did that. I got first, and I went against Dark Angels when they were at their hottest with the Desolator Marines, and I couldn't. I did one thing where I took myself off one of the sticky objectives, and he deep struck his Terminators on there, and I was like, "Oh, that's just lost me the game."
I know.
And I think I'd go back to that one tournament to face Alex Petford again, and to go, I'm not going to take anything off that objective, and go, I need to sit on it, because it was the bit at the time I was like, he's a very, very good player, and I was like, and I was running a very good list, and I was like, this is going first. This gives me the best chance. Otherwise, I just lose this game. I got the first turn. And I was like, oh my god, this is it. I've stickied all the objectives, and he's got Terminators everywhere. He can't get to the objectives, and I'm like, oh, this is it. And I just took myself off and just deep struck on it. I was like, and the thing is, I saw it as well. I saw it, and I was like, oh, I hope you don't pick up for it. I was like, of course he's going to pick up on it. And he just did it. I was like, no, just like that.
So it's a redemption arc for you. I like that.
It was good that tournament, because I ended up beating Scrivo in the last game. So
lovely.
That was such a good game. That was very so close.
That was one of my most favourite games of 40k. I think I had with you, because it was just very nice. It was just very nice, and always being Desolators is very nice as well.
What would you go for, John, for your favourite build, favourite mission?
So for me,
your Desert Island,
it would be 9th edition speed mob orcs,
Oh, hello.
but the army of
Hello.
renown.
Yeah.
With
Okay.
the list I was taking where it was 2s of each of the buggies apart from the rocket buggy.
Yeah, okay.
And then 2 planes and the bikes. So it had obsec bikes floating around because that was really fun to play. And like I kept playing against Marines on longboard kind of deployments where they just couldn't get to me. And if I went first, I just got across. So like any mission that kind of was that sort of deployment with them, probably not into Marines because I found it really underwhelming apart from against Dark Angel Terminator spam. Because it was like Grey Knights, just lift them because I could just shoot them oppressively quickly. So probably into probably something like Orcs because it was actually a challenge. Like boys, like something with lots of massive bodies would be the challenge for me. I think because it was a challenging game and I'd want it to be. If I was getting to play one tournament game, I'd want to make it count.
It's got to be interesting, right? You're on a desert island. Might as well be.
Exactly.
Who's the pilot?
Actually, no. I know what it'd be. It would be Chikari.
Oh, yeah?
From that period because they weren't scary. They weren't like busted scary, but they were still a challenge with the right pilot.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd want it to be a rematch with Rob Kay from the team.
Oh, Rob
because
Kay.
the last time I played him,
he crossed my mind for someone to play against on a desert island.
Because the last time I played him at a tournament with Orcs, I was playing on a tin can alley, so it didn't actually matter for a game.
Nice.
It was literally just tins.
I'd play you on a desert island. I played one of you two on desert island because I think my morale would be like great after that. Win or lose, I think I'd be just happy. I'd be like, you know what, it's just a good game.
Help's gonna come, boys.
I don't want to lose a game to someone and go, oh, you know what, I don't want to be on this desert island anymore. Just throw me in the sea.
Well, actually, what you should have done right was if you'd not done that, like for the rest of the week, you'd hear that person.
I'll play with one of you two on a desert island against one of you two.
Sweet. No, that'd be great. I think Data Scry, it's weird because although so many people hate it, Data Scry is the mission I remember the most from 9th because I think it's slightly infamous and it did shape games quite a lot. If I could play someone like Ed Fawcett, we had a game. What was our game? It was his Tyranids into my GSC on Data Scry would be a fun one. Although it would just be whoever went second would be sorting it out for the rest of the time. But that would be a good game. I'd enjoy that. Ed would be good company on Desert Island to get your morale high.
You'd have a giant white flag to wave to attention from behind him, right?
Yeah. Fantastic. Right. I don't think we have anything else in chat. So I think it's time to say thank you very much to our two lovely coaches for coming on. Very well done to Team England and Team Wales for a really great showing. It was really fun following you all at WTC. And I'm sure you'll all be back out to smash it again next time. So really well done. Thanks everyone for turning up in the chat. Thanks for singing some songs. Naz, appreciate it. And we will see you all again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Veal.
See ya. England.